Truth is, at the very least, three things. Number one, truth is necessary. It's important to realize that we simply cannot function without truth, or at least a notion of truth. Everything that we say, everything that we do, every moment of the day is based upon some internalized notion of truth. Let me put a very simple statement up on the board to give you an example of what I mean by that. I'm going into the city to see the new art museum later today. Now that's a fairly humdrum statement. That's a fairly unremarkable thing to say. It's something that we might say any day of the week. Unremarkable. And yet, just within this very simple statement, there are many, many inferred notions of truth. Let me explain what I mean by that. First of all, within this statement, I'm inferring the truth that I exist, that I'm real. When I say I am, I'm inferring the truth that I exist, that I'm a real person. I'm also inferring within this statement that I have the personal autonomy to make decisions. I can think, I can decide to go. That truth is woven into this statement. This statement also infers that I have the physical capability to go. It's a truth that I can physically transport myself from this place to that place. This statement also infers that there is such a place as this city. The city does in fact exist. It's a real place. I'm also inferring with this statement that I have the knowledge of how to transport myself from here to that city, the roads to take, the directions to go, that I can in fact do that. I'm inferring the truth that when I get there, I can in fact see things, that I have sight. I'm inferring that truth. I'm inferring that there is such a place as the art museum, that this place actually exists, that it's new in some way. I'm also inferring that it's close enough that I can get there within a single day. So this is just a single, simple, unremarkable statement, and yet it's woven together, it's stitched together, it hangs together with notions of truth. Notions of truth about the nature of existence, about the nature of time, about the nature of geography. It is pregnant with notions of truth. And if truth didn't exist, then nothing within the statement would actually make any sense at all. So we literally cannot function without solid notions of truth. Everything that we think and say and do is inherently based upon internalized ideas of truth. If I'm hungry, why is it that I go to get food? Because I inherently believe the truth that food will satisfy the hunger. If I'm thirsty, why do I get water? Because I inherently believe the truth that water will quench the thirst. Everything that we do in every moment of the day is being motivated by some notion of truth. Indeed, without absolute truths, nothing would be possible at all. For example, if there were no mathematical truths, engineering would become impossible. We could never have built bridges, or skyscrapers, or cars, or rocket ships, or computers. These things are only possible because of mathematical and scientific absolutes. Similarly, if there were no biological truths, we could never have created medicines. What I'm trying to get at here is that there isn't a single moment of life in which we are not depending upon or acting upon some notion of truth. Everything that we do, everything that we build our lives upon, everything that motivates us, everything is based upon some notion of truth. Without notions of truth, stitching reality together, reality itself falls apart into absurdity, nonsense, incoherence, and unintelligible nothingness. So that's the first thing that we need to understand about truth. Truth is necessary. Secondly, all truth is exclusive. All truth statements are exclusive. So I'm going to make a truth statement about this grass. You ready? This grass is green. Now, I've just made a truth statement about the color of that grass. And that statement, by its very nature, is exclusive. The moment I said that the grass is green, I automatically excluded all other colors from being equally true. Because I'm saying the grass is green, I'm automatically inferring that it's not red, it's not orange, it's not purple, it's not black. When you say what something is, you automatically infer what it's not. Because it's this, it automatically is not that. If I say that this is a guitar, I automatically exclude it from being any other instrument. Because I made the statement that this is a guitar, I've automatically excluded it from being a trumpet, from being a bassoon, from being a drum kit. Because it's this, it isn't any of those other things. A third example. If I say that I'm 1.88 meters tall, I'm automatically excluding all other heights from being true. By saying that I'm 188, I'm automatically excluding 150, 2 meters, 165, 154, 176. Whenever you make a truth statement, you exclude all contradictory ideas from being equally true. Truth statements are always exclusive. Now, thirdly, because truth statements are always exclusive, truth is often offensive. Now, of course, nobody's going to get offended by truth statements about grass and guitars and heights. But if I was to make truth statements about gender, about sexuality, about identity, about religion, then people may get offended. In fact, they're likely to get offended. For example, if I was to say that there are only 2 genders, or if I was to say that it's impossible for a man to become a woman, or if I was to say that men can't get periods, or that Jesus is the only way to God, these are truth statements. And because they're truth statements, they're exclusive. And because they're exclusive, they are potentially offensive. So you see the sequence here. Truth is necessary, but truth statements are by their very nature exclusive, and because they're exclusive, they're often offensive. Now, the world has spotted this. The world has spotted that if you make truth statements, by their very nature, that will exclude and cause offense. The world has spotted these outcomes when it comes to truth telling. So it thinks to itself, well, what can we do about this? When people make truth statements, it excludes and it causes offense. It often hurts people's feelings. This isn't good. So what can we do about this? How can we solve this problem? And the solution that they've come up with is essentially to ban the truth, to wage war on the idea that there is such a thing as absolute truth. Because truth statements offend and exclude, it's been decided that truth statements should be deemed socially unacceptable. Therefore, truth is now branded as hate speech. It's been criminalized. If you make truth statements exactly like these ones, you can now be punished. You'll be banned from social media. You'll be visited by the police. You'll be fired from your job. It doesn't matter that these statements are all scientifically accurate. It's been decided that feelings are more important than facts. Therefore, facts, truth statements have to be shut down and punished. Now, this is a very blunt and inelegant solution. There are 2 huge problems with it. Problem number 1, when you try to ban the truth on the basis it's offensive and exclusionary, you ban something that is simply necessary for life to function. Remember, without notions of truth stitching reality together, we are left with mere absurdity, incoherence, and unintelligible nothingness. So a society that wages war on truth will soon crumble into this absurd incoherence. And that's exactly what we see happening. We see convicted male rapists being put in female jail cells because they choose to identify as a woman. We see male athletes being able to compete with female athletes because they identify as a woman. Medical doctors are being fired for referring to people by their genetically determined sex. People are claiming it's possible to identify as any skin color they choose, regardless of reality. People are claiming that men can get periods. Researchers are being fired for making accurate statements that men genetically cannot change into women. This kind of nonsense is being taught in schools.
Everyone born with a vulva is a girl. True or false?
Or identifies as a girl. Not everybody is sure, and that makes sense. But our genitals actually don't determine our gender. So some people born with vulvas can be boys.
I've talked in the past about how men are identifying as 6-year-old girls, how women are identifying as cats. Because society has decided to criminalize truth-telling about these issues, absurdity is indeed allowed to flourish and society is descending into incoherence. Remember, truth stitches reality together. So a society that deliberately decides to suppress and attack the truth is attacking the very thing that holds it together. That society will soon find itself unraveling and crumbling into nothing. I don't think it's an overstatement to say that if we keep suppressing truth, if we keep attacking reality, our very society is in danger of complete collapse. It will collapse under the weight of its own nonsensical absurdity. So that's problem number 1. And problem number 2 is this. If you try to ban people from speaking freely on the basis that it's exclusive and offensive, you are in that moment becoming a tyrant. You're becoming tyrannical. If people are not free to make truth statements, they're not free at all. As George Orwell once said, if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. If people are not free to speak the truth on the basis that that truth might be offensive, they are not free at all. They don't have free speech, they don't have freedom of thought, they are living in a police state, they are living under tyranny. People must be free to speak their mind, even though it be offensive. If they're not allowed this, if they're criminalized for speaking their mind, that creates a very dangerous situation. If there's one concept that has caused more revolutions and uprisings and civil wars than any other in the history of mankind, it's the concept of freedom. If you take people's freedom away, if you oppress their freedom of thought and speech, history tells us that it won't be very long before there's a revolt. Again, I don't think it's an overstatement to say that if big companies, if government, if police forces continue down this path of trying to shut down free speech, eventually there will be some kind of revolt. So attacking truth is dangerous for these two reasons. Number one, the fabric of society will disintegrate and the entire thing will collapse into absurd incoherence. And number two, when you attack freedom of speech, you create a tyranny that people will only bear for so long. Eventually, there is likely to be some kind of revolt. I'm not saying that I support these outcomes, I'm not saying that these things are just around the corner, or even that these things will definitely happen at all. I'm just saying that if we keep moving towards the suppression of truth and the suppression of free speech, as is currently happening, these are the logical outcomes. There's a real danger that both of these things could eventually happen. So, attacking free speech, attacking truth on the basis that it might be offensive, trying to shut down the truth, calling it hate speech, this is not a viable long-term solution. This is going to end in tears somehow. And I think this is where the Bible gives us the real way to handle this situation. The Bible says, instead we will speak the truth in love, growing in every way more and more like Christ, who is the head of his body, the church. The Bible declares that we must continue speaking the truth. Truth is too necessary to shut down. It's too important. But we attach to that truth love. We speak the truth in love. That means that we speak the truth with grace, with kindness, with the listener's best interests at heart, not out of malice. We don't deliberately try to cause offense. Because we're dealing in truth, we will cause offense. It's unavoidable. But that's not the purpose of our truth. Our truth comes from a place of love because we want to save, because we want to heal, because we want to help people find life. And once we collectively understand that our truth telling is indeed rooted in love for each other, that should open us up to be able to have free, frank, open discussions, which is exactly what's required in our society today. Instead of shutting down the truth, instead of shutting down debate, we need to instead speak the truth in love. Now, of course, there will still be disagreements. Our notions of truth will still differ. But the Bible says that we must therefore learn to reason together. Instead of shutting down the other voice simply because you feel offended or challenged by it, we need to instead learn to disagree well. What's your notion of truth? Why do you have that notion of truth? Well, this is what I think. This is where my notion of truth comes from. That's how people mature and grow with each other, through these open and frank discussions. So that's the bottom line here. We need a free marketplace of ideas where we can indeed reason and discuss and debate and disagree with each other, where we can make truth statements about transgenderism and homosexuality and other important topics. And rather than being shut down for those opinions, we can instead reason with each other about them. We as Christians don't have anything to fear from a free discussion about these issues. And I would ask the government, the police, the social media giants not to try to shut down our Christian voices. Let us all speak freely. Let us all have a voice. Let's learn to disagree well. And let's learn to let the truth prevail.